IVM.
Hello, Amit. I won't be able to record today, yaar.
Why? What happened, Cyrus?
Ah, man, I've got to go to the bank. I have to open a new account. That document filing, profiling. You got to show this card, that card, this verification, that verification. Too many processes. Man, they should have to ease these things up, yaar. There's no way a normal person can do this.
Well, there is a way to do this. All you have to do is you can do all of this sitting at home if you have a Bank of Baroda account.
Huh? But I have a Bank of Baroda account.
Awesome. Then all you really need to do to avail of 95% of all retail banking services domestically. Just download the Bob World app and use the banking services right at your fingertips.
Oh, wow, sorted. See you in the studio then. What a relief. Bank of Baroda, we live in your world. कृपया ध्यान दीजिए, the language used on the podcast may not be fit for consumption. We warn you, tread carefully. But listen, yaar, don't be so conservative. All right, it's called, what the hell is it called? I remember the show, Cyrus Says. And I'm wearing a Kolkata Knight Riders t-shirt because my guest is in Kolkata. We'll get to him in a second. It's a power-packed novel. He's got a fabulous life story. He's in the apex in India, but looking at what is probably the other side of the cylinder, so to speak. But before we get to him, let's quickly talk about the fact that there's a new COVID strain now. People are talking about it, mostly coming from Africa and maybe Southeast Asia as well. And so Indian authorities, I've got this on record, are saying that they've got a new protocol, a new procedure list for foreigners coming into India. Please pay attention. We've got the abridged version. Okay, quickly give it to you so you can save time for your friends and family or foreigners coming in and out. Number one, when you enter India, do not mention beef. Number two, do not mention Pakistan. And number three, and above all, do not mention there are two Indias. These things have to be maintained by all foreigners and you'll be fine. You'll be good to go.
Eventually, you'll see the end of your childhood,
Get accustomed to womanhood.
enjoy the experience of sisterhood,
Might get to wifehood
or not, choose motherhood,
or not. You'll learn to define your personhood.
earn a livelihood,
Change the neighborhood.
and get rid of the falsehood that life post-academia is easy.
So join me, Ritasha,
And me, Ayushi,
on a journey from station starting point.
to station, what now?
Next station, Pudin station, and hopefully, Agla station, adulthood.
Fresh episodes out every Thursday.
All right, good to go time means we have to start the show with Kaushik Roy. I've just been told it's pronounced in Bengali Kaushik. So I will try my best to remember that. First and foremost, Kaushik, my friend. If I can just tell them, I've known you, I would say vaguely. It would be fair to say that I know you very well, but we've eaten at your lovely restaurant, which was in Parel, next to the office where we both work or worked. for
Yeah,
some time.
Mahalakshmi, that's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're still there, but we were moved to the other wing for some reason. Some would say the helps quarters. Lots to talk about again, Kaushik, because you're a multi-dimensional person. I want to start with the book first, but I hope you have enough time to go into your life a little bit. Very interesting life and the work that you've done and all the things around you. But the book, it's an amazing book. And perhaps your timing is perfect because every week we have some incident or the other where we're reminded that liberty is at a premium here and maybe as expensive as petrol. So let's take a look at that book. If you can just put it up for us for a second. Alphabetica.
Yeah, so here's my book, right? This is Alphabetica.
There you go.
Is it? Yeah. Right in frame, right.
You did a superb job of not showing it. But now it's come in the center. Yeah.
Okay, maybe like that. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
So,
That's
okay.
Go ahead.
What came to my mind immediately is the fact that this book is about a world where there are letters of the English alphabet, 26 of them.
26.
And suddenly one day, the 21 consonants discover that they're in majority. So they must rule. They must decide what the others must do. And who are the others? They're the 5 vowels. And they're the minority. So this story is all about the majority telling the minority, look, guys, we're the boss. We came first and we decide what's going to happen in this planet called typewriter. So they all live in a typewriter.
Where have we heard that before? Sounds familiar.
Okay. And well, I have to quickly tell you this, that in this story, there are different characters and they all have different parts to play. And E, who's unfortunately for the consonants,
The comedian.
is the most popular. Yeah, is a comedian. And the comedian is meant to be banned because the comedian is not allowed to speak because the comedian cracks jokes about the consonants. The comedian actually takes on the majority. So the comedian is told, no, not you. You can't crack that joke. Sorry. Okay, go back and we'll throw you out. And if you crack another joke, we are going to tax you. So all that happens in the book. Yes, of course.
You could have gone with K or M, and unfortunately they're consonants. But because K for Kunal Kamra and M for Munawar Farooqi would have been, I think, a nice tribute to two people who may never be seen or heard of again. As we speak, you would be very careful. Say bye to them every single day. Call them up and wish them well.
So what I've done is that I've kept K and M as people who don't say very much. K plays the guitar. So his name is Kappa. So his friends call him Frank Kappa. So Frank Kappa is a guitarist.
Zappa?
Because yeah. So
is it a take on Zappa Gappa?
Yeah, Zappa. So he's Frank Kappa. Yeah.
Probably wasted on some of the people listening to this podcast. Musical generation. Let's say
I know
that passed before, so to speak, again. But maybe you can revive that interest in that. Very interesting. But I want to just set this up, the book, a little bit, because it is not to be intimidated. If you want to read this book, please don't be. It sounds sometimes a little more complex than it is, but it isn't. It's actually a very linear sort of setup. So let's just understand. There are punctuations, there are signs. Just give us the whole gamut. I know it's difficult in a short while. Just the setup of the entire thing. We've understood the consonants and we've understood there are vowels in the minority. Then?
So, okay. First of all, it all happens inside this typewriter. Okay. So the typewriter is their planet. And on the west side, there is this country called Alphabetica, which is occupied with the 26 letters. And on the right side, there is another country called Numerica. Now, typically, the Alphabeticans, which is led by the consonants, they're extremely suspicious of these guys who are the numbers who don't make any sound. They're very quiet and they sit over there and do their job and disappear. While these guys are the sound makers. They are the people who are supposed to be making the words, and they're always, trying to show off and all that. And one thing that they believe is that those guys are not good guys. And whenever they have a little problem in Alphabetica, they'll say, we'll send you to Numerica. Go to Numerica. Catch a train and go to Numerica. So incidentally, there's a train also because Q refuses to acknowledge that what sticks out, that appendage, is actually a tail. So she insists that it's the train of a royal gown. So they say, okay, take that train, go to Numerica. So you know where they have to go. Numerica is meant to be that place. So when it comes to the time when they actually have this massive fight, they actually force the vowels to run out of Alphabetica. So they have to take asylum in Numerica. And it's a strange land. I mean, because nobody has ever gone to Numerica.
Which is a strange land? Numerica.
Numerica. Because, these guys don't make any sound. They're very quiet. And then when they go, they discover they're not bad guys. They're very regimented. They're regimented because the punctuations and the signs, they're into a business. They're in a business community. So they run a pub. So this pub is called the Italics. And the Italics is meant to be italics because, they're all slanted like after having their drinks. But they don't have drinks in there. They have the ink. So they get high on ink. So the ink can be black, they can be pink and purple and all that.
Adhyapak ji, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Is ink allowed in Numerica's Parampara and Sanskriti?
No. So that's that country. They don't have their ink. They're very pious kind of guys. And they say that's to be discovered, that, what you see is what you get. 1 is 1, 2 is 2. But there is no hierarchy because 1 plus 0 can be 10 and 10 can be bigger than or larger than 2. So 3 may be smaller than 8, but 300 is bigger than 80. So they don't have hierarchy. They don't make a sound. And whatever you see is what you get. Whereas they point out and say that you guys, the confession with you is that your sounds are all different. I mean, O-U-G-H, gosh. I mean, it could be through, tough, plow. So, ow, oo, aw, all of it is possible OUGH. So that's the confusion that you have.
Kaushik, I'm already a little perplexed. So the right of the typewriter is actually the left, in the sense.
Yeah. So
Because they're slightly more
it's like
communist
stage.
leaning. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
right,
like a
right.
stage.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
So
So you got to invert
that's a
it.
big
and then
confusion. Yeah.
Very nice. No,
Camera
it's a
left.
nice. Yes, but it's a nice analogy because it's like a paradox, and then it actually comes out to be what it is if you face the right direction, in a sense. Yeah, very
Yes.
interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
Immediately, just to set up the plot again. So there's a conflict. Obviously, the worlds collide. That essentially would be
Yeah.
the
Right.
second half of the story, right?
Yes.
I don't want to give it away, but because my wife's got the book, so I still haven't read it. And she's on her way to Ahmedabad,
Ah.
with the book on majorityism.
It's meant to be Ahmedabad. Ahmedabad. It's not Ahmedabad. It's Ahmedabad.
I'm sorry, that has a Muslim connotation, and that's not
Yeah,
allowed.
that
Fair
what you
enough.
said is
Yeah.
a Muslim connotation.
Yeah,
Ahmedabad is nice and mango. So it's Kesari.
-1 for using the wrong
No.
phonetic usage. Yeah.
So it's
Good to know.
Ahmedabad. Yeah.
All right, but let's now. So that's the book. I want to talk about all these blurbs also. They're very interesting because obviously you're such a high-profile person that you can call up a Shobha Dey or a Shekhar Kapoor. Folks, he's got recommendations and blurbs from people like Shobha, Shekhar Kapoor, Rajdeep Sardesai, Raju Hirani, Piyush Pandey, and Harsha Bhogle, all of whom I know on first-name basis. No, I'm just kidding. Kaushik, now I want to just go back into your real life, as in your actual life, because you're a huge corporate figure with you're one of the big guns, whether you like it or not. Didn't expect this side to you at all. Know you vaguely, seen you around. Tell us a little bit about the background and why this book then.
So
where did this bee in the bonnet come from?
Well, actually, I have to say that the bean in my bonnet is more to do with the fact that I have done so much of advertising and everything else with that. I needed a break. It's
you wanted to tell the truth. You've had enough of falsehoods.
So I thought that the first thing that I do or write shouldn't be about advertising, because then those one more so Kaushik Roy, so he's written about his brands and so on and so forth. So I thought since I have this very strong idea and it's been sitting there since 2008 and I've not been able to sort of do anything with the idea, I must first do what is important.
Can I interrupt for a second? Sorry. You said 2008.
Yes.
The germ of this idea was 2008.
Yes.
So this doesn't have an India view. Coincidentally, India has shown some color towards the book. So in a sense, life imitating art. But in 2008, this was more like a worldview. Is that fair to say?
Well, I suspect that there was something happening around that time that it suddenly, popped into my head that, what if these letters who have a majority and a minority, and what if they have this strange fight, they start behaving like us and they say that, no more vowels. So what are we going to do? So I said, okay, maybe it's a short story. Maybe it's for children. Maybe it's that. And then finally in 2019, which is when I finally said that I must finish this. Otherwise, it's, just going on in my head. And suddenly when I started writing, I discovered that it's actually a material enough to make a novel, because in my book, though it seems very simplistic to say it's A, B, C, D, etc., all these letters have a backstory. All these letters actually come from the Phoenician script. And interestingly, the consonants are the ones who came first. So the consonants are much like, who says that we came 3,000 years back. And those Greek vowels are the intruders. They don't belong over here. How come they've come and become so powerful? How come they have a bigger word share in the lexicon and we have such a small share? So suddenly I realized that these people could be possibly, and even if I were to look at them as humans, they talk exactly like the way we talk to say that, this land is mine, I came first, you came later, you're an intruder, go back, this is not yours. So then I discovered that there are so many interesting characters where they actually have twins. For instance, there is, C and G. Actually, it's G which came first as Gimel, and then they're twins. So it's C and G. And then there are,
C and
interestingly,
G.
there is...
CNG is
Yeah,
something else altogether. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And then there is also the interesting thing about the fact that there are siblings. So there are, I won't tell you who, but there are 4 letters which come out of one single glyph of Phoenician glyph called Waw, W-A-W. So suddenly I thought that, man, I mean, this is like a family. It's got, characters who are supposed to be friendly, supposed to be siblings, supposed to be twins. So, it was a very strange thing that they could actually be humans. I mean, just the way we are supposed to be, behaving. And strangely, what happens is that you don't know. It's like the Hindi film where, the twin forgets the other one who.
Judwa.
So
Yeah.
it's like, mele mein kho gaya.
Yeah.
So you actually, one twin fights with the other twin or the sibling with the other sibling till they discover. So I felt that there is enough material to actually make it sound like human beings talking to each other in the way we speak. And then, of course, the big plot about the majority and the minority.
Is there a bit of a Jonathan Swift in it, do you think? Lilliput immediately came to mind. Are you a Gulliver Travels fan? Could it be
Yes,
in your
of course.
subconscious?
Who hasn't read Gulliver's Travels? And this
Oh,
whole
lots of
thing-
people today. Nobody reads. My kids, for example, huh?
Well, yeah,
No, but I'm
absolutely.
just trying to think about how the perpetuity of the point where, honestly, you go back, well, how many years, the satire in those days, and it's almost the same thing because you're reweaving the same satirical the profile of the story is forever.
Yes, absolutely.
So it goes beyond. I think you were hinting at indigenous India or something like that in the beginning, and saying this is our
No,
land.
I think it's
that
global.
goes
It's global.
global.
Yes.
It's a global thing. It's not even, you can't even point out who came first. Sometimes history keeps showing us as we do more research that X was actually there, then Y was there, and whatever. So that's that's a ridiculous point in any case on its own. But what's interesting is that you started writing in 2008, and I find this really amazing. And then after that period is when the world seemed to veer right more and more. Between, say, 2008 and the election of Donald Trump, and let's say a few elections in countries closer to home. So that is purely a coincidence.
Well, actually, I must say that something happened to me because when I started writing in 2019, I was there in Jerusalem sorry, not Jerusalem. What I meant is that I was in Israel. So let's
Gaza.
say that I was in Israel.
Yeah.
And Israel, where I spent 2 months, and I had enough time, so I started, writing this book. And I suddenly felt that there is something about the majority minority happening over here in this country, because these are the people who, so many thousands just disappeared because they were the minority somewhere. So perhaps this whole thing about, what happens in terms of oppression and a Holocaust that, changed the world, so to speak. I think it had something to do with that more than any country. And of course, yes, as far as Trump is concerned, I mean, he was going nuts as far as the US is concerned, writing out all kinds of executive orders to say who's allowed, who's not, and who's okay, who's not. And so, yes, I think it's a very global thing.
Also, his call for
And
masonry.
of course, our country as well.
I think it began with that call towards all masons of the country to come forward and help him build a wall. That infantile sort of conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so much like a satire. I mean, in real life, to have a comical character who's building a wall.
So-called most powerful man in the world, and on his agenda is, I want to build a wall.
True.
Give me 10 guys. And they're all Mexicans in any case, from what I gather, to build the wall. Coming back, so it's a universal theme. So let me understand the whole thing. What you're saying here is it's easy to look at finding sort of analogies or illustrations from the modern world and local politics, India or wherever. But what we're trying to say here through the book is the fact that human nature being what it is, we're always going to have one group trying to dominate the other group, depending on size. And from there, all the prejudices and all will come through. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I think what we need to recognize is what I think some people describe as the tyranny of the majority. The tyranny of the majority is meant to be happening at every level. So if you look at this plot and the theme, I think it is meant to be that even in a family, even in an office, even in a club, you will have the majority telling what the minority must do. And I have a very important message over here for those who think that I'm being extremely political. I come from a background where I have seen, and in my family too, I've had differently able people, and I've seen how a differently able person is the ultimate minority, because they're told you're not okay. They're told that you will not speak, you will not come out, you will not be heard, seen, whatever, because you're not normal. Now, who's defining normal? It's actually the majority who's defining the normal. So the minority must always conform to a system which the majority says this is how it should be. So I think it's something that is, it's universal to the point that it is at every level of the society.
Although I can reverse it in two occasions I can think of. One is India is run by a minority, Parsis. I mean, I can give you proof of that anytime you want. Been quietly running this country, not taking any credit for it for hundreds of years. And secondly, the British, a minority force, basically just weave their way through. And a few Caucasian personalities, if you want to call them that, ran it from a small room in London or something. And mostly it was our people attacking our people, in a sense.
True.
So what about that when that happens?
Yes, I think any kind of oppression, whether it is the minority or the majority, I think is absolutely wrong. And you're absolutely right, because there is something in my book, which is that, for any tyrant to become a tyrant, they actually react to situations in a certain way. So I may react to a certain situation and say that, okay, I'll let it pass. It's all right. I'm not going to be fighting about it. But I could decide to get very angry or upset or even threatened by, like you said, the minority. And for instance, in my book, the threat is that when they overhear the conversations of the person who's meant to be the poet god who uses this typewriter, talk about minority rule.
South Africa,
for instance, Africa. And you're absolutely right. South Africa. So there are so many examples of minorities actually colonizing. Just a bunch of people, they actually hold the entire country to ransom, and they could be running the country. So yeah, it's absolutely right. Though my book is about the majority, the minority could be doing the same. We've got a history of the British who did this to us.
No, but both the philosophies are working for me. I'm thinking right now this is a fabulous piece of contemporary writing, because looking around the world, and not just India, it's very easy to quickly say, oh, this is India, they ban beef, they ban this, they ban that. But it's much more than that. Across the world, the Czech Republic, this, that, and the other, all kinds of Turkey. I mean, the fact that the right has empowered itself and emasculated the muscularity of the right coming through all the time. So that, I think, is the way it is right now, clearly. But in that, we still have minorities ruling the majority in a sense, like just a few handful of, if you want to call them a coterie or a mafia or a syndicate in each country, which actually runs everything. So in that sense, it works both ways. So in the end, democracy has failed either way, whether it's the minority or the majority.
Actually, what you're talking about is another dangerous thing, where the minority is basically a very small group of industrialists, which is called a system, the oligarchy. Oligarchy is actually a minority rule, which basically means that within the system of democracy, a few rich people control everything. They actually run the country. I mean, Russia would be a very good example of that, as one of the countries where there are few people.
An oligarchy, but they've got this one guy who rides horses bareback. So he's on top of that. So in a sense, it's a despotic oligarchy, is it not? He's still the boss, isn't he?
So he's the boss. So actually, that's a very interesting thing that you observed, which is that it's a system.
So a minority again in that majority.
Yes. It's a very close-knit group. It's like a club. And of course, one guy who rides a horse bareback is the one who's actually the boss of that.
We won't forgive him for that. Yeah. But now that you segue to that for a second, I think these guys are so good. We were discussing Arvind Kejriwal yesterday, that rickshaw driver incident. I don't know if you are familiar with it. He had a huge rally in which he basically spoke to rickshaw drivers and lorry and taxi drivers. So basically that genre or lobby, if you like. And one rickshaw driver got the mic and praised him and said, "I love you so much. You're the best. This and the other. Will you come to my house for dinner?" So Kejriwal accepted and actually went by rickshaw to his house for dinner. So now the whole idea is this a work of just great, it sounds like a great human story, or is it just a great political, manipulative Machiavellian story where he sort of kind of, planned it or planted it or, done all. So what I'm trying to say is that we can't tell the intentions of all these people in any case after time. And that is why the minority sometimes fools the majority. But thank you for opening our eyes to all these different things. Now let's get to a very interesting point, which is, how come all these big shots have written such interesting things about you? Tell us a little bit. Shobha De, Shekhar Kapoor, Rajiv Sardesai, Raju Hirani, Piyush Pandey, and Harsha Bhogle. The cocktails.
Well, actually, these are friends. Friends, and I also admire certain people like Shekhar Kapoor, etc. I think he's absolutely one of the finest film directors that we produce in this country. So they've been very kind. I reached out to them. They were willing to read the book. I think what worked for me was the idea. I mean, the minute I explained the idea in a minute, they said, okay, fine, I'll read it and send it to me. So I'm very fortunate. I think that's where what you were talking about is my entire 40 years that I have spent in this business of advertising, marketing, branding, etc., etc. I've come across all these people, got to know them, and I may have done something to make them believe that I'm not such an idiot. So they were willing to read. Yes.
Well, for those who may not know, Kaushik is a very, very big shot in the corporate world and huge in the advertising and the PR and HR world as well. So, in a sense, they have to take his call because they don't know when they need him. So that's also part of it. But I think this will definitely appeal to the intellectual. Firstly, the book, and secondly, I think it's people will get what they want from it. You know, some will say that it's a bit of a commentary about the situation in our country. Some will say we'll find all kinds of different innuendos, etc. But you haven't mentioned the main protagonist, whose name is Roy, or as we say in Bengali, Rai. What's his role in all this?
So, okay, that's another interesting point, which is related to my whole 40 years in this business. See, when I thought of writing this book, it could have been Kaushik Roy, but I chose to become Roy Phoenix. And very clearly, it's because...
Very cool, Kaushik Roy. Very cool. Roy Phoenix. Sounded like a cowboy when I read the blurb. Yeah.
So back to the Roy name. My surname is Roy. And my father had an advertising agency called Phoenix. And he started in 1948. Ooh. And as a kid, my first, exposure to this advertising world was in my dad's agency. And I discovered that there's this wonderful logo of a bird which is flying with flames under it. So I was fascinating. And I asked
Phoenix,
what does this mean? So what they explained to me, this is the bird called the Phoenix. It lives for 1,000 years. And it sets itself aflame and then rises from its ashes to fly for another 1,000 years. So that stuck in my head, and I chose to not be Kaushik Roy because if I write non-fiction, it'll be Kaushik Roy. If there's going to be fiction, I want to be somebody different. Not
there's a neutrality to Roy Phoenix also. I guess that's important.
Yeah, it is very important because I think it is like what you just discussed, which is if this book is read by somebody, they shouldn't start forming an opinion by saying that, oh, so this is that guy from that country and this must be so-and-so, that's his background. Let that person not have any idea of the author. It could be, as you said, neutral. So I felt that it is important to be neutral and somebody new, even for myself, to present myself as somebody new. Yes, that's what that's Roy.
No, I think it's much more fun for us when we read or watch something to get different options in our head in terms of where this is going or not going, rather than to have a complete blueprint and this is it. So while people are free to decide that there's a parallel or analogy with this, that, and the other, I'm saying it's also it's good to have the option that it goes in different directions as well, which I think a lot of people will do, especially all these erudite people you've spoken of, who all read books because they come from a generation before mine. Shobha De, Shekhar Kapoor, Rajiv Sardesai, Raju Hirani, Piyush Pandey, and Harsha Bhogle. Pretty good list of names. So let's talk. We have to go to break in about 3-4 minutes. Just quick background. Kaushik, you said your dad had an agency, but then you came to Bombay. Just give us if it's possible, in just 5 minutes, give us the 365 steps to fame.
Okay. Fame, I don't know. But yes, I started my career in advertising. Yeah. Well, that's waiting. After this book, there'll be very terrific.
Yes, both are just around the corner. Go on.
Okay. So 1979, when I was in college, I discovered that I needed to work because, I needed the money. I wanted to get married. I was very young, but, I wanted to get married to the person that I was going around with. And I realized that I wouldn't get married until I got myself a job. So I was in third year college. I went to JWT and I showed them my stuff. They threw it out and they made the mistake of sending me to the creative head. His name was Sundar Chatterjee, a very, what shall I say, great personality,
Iconic,
gravitas, etc., who came on screen as Dhritiman Chattopadhyay in all the, Dhritiman Chatterjee in all the Satyajit Ray films. I was very nervous when I went to him. And he looked at my work. He made the biggest mistake of saying, do an assignment and come back. And I did the assignment and I went back. And he said, okay, leave it with me. Then I said, I've given you my assignment. Where is it? So am I getting the job? So I said, look, you have to give me a job. So he said, okay, I'll give you a job as an apprentice. You'll get 400 rupees. So I said, very good. So he said, but your plans of getting married, etc., how will you do it with 400 rupees? I said, don't worry, it's important to, start somewhere. So I went to, that's the, most important thing in my life, which is I went to the Jesuit father, and Father Huart, and I said that I've got a job. And they all spoke in Bengali.
Wow.
So he said that, is this a job that you are serious about? This is what you want to do? So I said, yes, I want to be in advertising because I'm going to be a creative guy. I'll do all these layouts and all that. I'm not so much into, studies. So he said, okay, I'll let you go, but you have to promise me that you'll finish your graduation. Then I'll let you go. And the, miracle that happened was that in St. Xavier's, the most important thing was your attendance. If you didn't have your attendance some 90% or something, then you wouldn't be allowed to sit for your exams. So I was given a waiver. I didn't have to go to college at all for the last final year. And I did my job. I finished my graduation. And I'm so grateful to Father Huart for letting me do this. And
but did you get married?
Yeah, I mean, not immediately, but in two years' time, I did get married.
But the $400, how did you set up your
No,
life?
so I very rapidly. So I think that is interesting that maybe I did the right things or whatever. Very rapidly from 400, it moved to 500. And it got stuck at 500 for about 2 years. And suddenly they said that, you're getting a quantum jump. And I was wondering what that would be. And it became 1500. So from 4, 5, 1500,
300% increment.
Yeah, so there was a jackpot. So of course I could get married. So, so cut to where I am today is a very long journey. Of course, that was JWT. I've worked in 3 advertising agencies. Another one was Clarion, which became Bates, and then I've lost track. They kept changing their names. And then I moved to Mumbai in 1992, and I came and joined Mudra. Now, Mudra was an agency which was owned by Reliance. And but I discovered one thing that, Mr. Anil Ambani, who was the client, never behaved like the owner. He was a very tough, client, and but we got along very well. And we started working very closely. And then that was Bombay. And then I had a break in between. I got out of advertising agencies and I went to Philips. And I met this strange guy who was cracking jokes all the time. And he did all kinds of weird things. And then I said, this is the man. This man has to be in the Philips ads because such a fuddy-duddy brand. Maybe he can do something. And I don't know this guy. This man's called Cyrus. Cyrus. Yes. Cyrus. So Cyrus came into my life. That was 1998.
Majority attacking the minority. Yeah. Yeah. So, I remember the Philips ads.
And I must say that, this man for some time made Philips look very hip and young. And then, of course, I don't know what happened. I left and I came back to Mudra again. And then I got hijacked. They said, come and join Reliance. So I joined Reliance. So 2002, my life changed and I joined Reliance. And I've continued to be in Reliance.
And what people don't know is you're the highest equity holder in Reliance. Well, in many ways, the power behind the throne. This is something which I'm sharing for the first time here, all right? Because all this talk about majority, minority, who is Kaushik Roy in the fullness of all that, right at the top. Okay, yeah, but it's amazing.
Yeah, they've been very nice to me. Yeah, they've been very nice to me. And they've let me do all kinds of crazy things, including making a feature film. So they let me go for 30 days. I took leave. In 30 days, I had to shoot my film. And then, of course, I died because I had to work and do the post-production. But yeah, I mean, they've been wonderful. They've recognized that I have something more than just working the office, and they've let me do that.
But also, I don't know whether it's the Bengali thing or, that stereotype, but it's almost like that you keep the job, but the job can't be you. There's always much more than you. Whether it's running a restaurant because you're passionate about food, whether it's writing a book, which is a hard-hitting book. It's not just a silly piece of work that some of us authors would like to put out there.
Thank you.
And whether you're making a film or something else, you can't sit still, right? Kaushik Roy can't sit still.
No, I can't.
Because with due respect, you've done a lot in the corporate world, and from advertising early days to where you are now, you can basically just sort of play golf. I would expect that without disrespecting anyone. But no.
I watch a lot of cricket, IPL, and okay, that's another thing.
You own a team.
We own a team, and I sat for the first auction. Yeah. So,
I heard a rumor that the team's name came from you. Is that fair? Is that?
Yeah, I know. I think the team's name came from Mukesh Ambani, not me. Why? Because I had 36
well
names.
Said, sir. Well said.
36 names. Okay. And I presented the first name. I said Mumbai Indians. He said, this is the name. I said, I've got 35 more.
35 more.
So he said, I'm not interested. Mumbai Indians. So I tried to.
India at its brilliant best. You have the speed of the Gujarati and the creative genius of the Bengali. You put it together, boom, you got your answer. There you go.
And I was desperately trying to tell him that, the logic behind it, and, like advertising people have rationale and all that. So I wanted to say, New York Yankees, Mukesh bhai, that's where he said, I'm not interested.
I never thought of that. That's very...
Yeah, so...
that's where it comes from.
See, nobody's original, not even me. I mean, I pretend to be, but I'm not. So I studied all these teams, and I realized that there is something that if I could tie Mumbai and India together, and eventually it will be that, when it was meant to be that format, that the domestic one will be international. So when it goes international, we'll be called Indians. And actually, it happened because...
Sorry, but there's a danger.
What?
You haven't seen the danger here. Secessionist tendencies. Mumbai Indians.
Yeah,
the book is on majority, minority. I'm just worried now. I'm a little worried.
I know.
You're like a soothsayer. You're predicting more than there is, always.
Yeah, true.
What an amazing story. So that's it. You're Mumbai Indians. I initially didn't like the name at all, to be honest, because I was like, what does it mean?
They wrote about it in newspapers. Midday had run a whole interview. Mumbaikars felt let down. They said that, what a terrible name. How can you have a stupid name like this? And so I said, okay, believe me, this is a story which is the poor kids. I mean, they were very young, Akash and Isha, they were in school, and they were bullied in school saying, you've got a loser team. Yeah, seriously, they actually were very upset because the boy, the friend, especially Akash, he had lots of friends who said that this is a stupid name. You should change it. Look at the others. They've got bulls and there are riders and night riders and lions.
Uncle Kaushik caused a lot of turmoil.
Yeah, so I was told that, seriously, this is something that, I have to say that I was told, can we change the name? I said, I'm sorry, but, it's been registered. It's with Sony. They've got our logo. They're already on air with our logo. So we can't suddenly tell them that it's changing. So I'm so happy that, finally, after so many years, people actually like the name. And I think there's nothing like success, at the end of the day, which is what I believe, that it's a product. It's a product is the team over here. If it does well, the name could have been anything. I'm sure it would stick.
Well, it grows on you one way or the other. And now it's really a hard print in the mind. But let's take a quick break. We're our non-break break as Silvery joins us, because I want to get Kaushik's reaction.
Hey everybody, it's been a great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On The Habit Coach, Ashton is joined by Namita Piparaya, yoga and Ayurveda lifestyle specialist and founder of Yoganama. They talk about her yoga journey, the different kinds of yoga, and how to choose the one that's right for you. On Misconduct, Raghavi and Nisha introduce us to a French woman in the 1700s who stole Queen Marie Antoinette's diamond necklace by forging her signature. On Audio Gyan, Kedar talks to founder Tanul Vikamshi about his community art and design center, Alag Angle. On The Longest Constitution, Priya shares her insights on the important Nalso judgment of 2014. This judgment recognized the third gender and affirmed the right to self-affirm one's gender. And on Nankari, Sadaf and Archit speak to hotelier Diwan Gautam Anand about his journey through Delhi's past and present. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Also, do check out our various YouTube channels. You can catch them on IVM Podcast /YouTube. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors on the network this week: Cred, Bank of Baroda, Quota, CoinSwitch, Kuber, Flake Coffee, Intel, and Oxfam India. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Silvery, please come in on the other names now that you opened this box for us, which is basically what is your feeling about Kolkata Knight Riders then? Where did that come from? I mean, Knight Rider was a show in the 80s in America or something like that, but where did that come from?
Well, I think it was Shah Rukh. I happened to work very closely with him because initially, when we were doing all this, and he's an amazing mind. He's got he right from the beginning he had thought of a kind of imagery for his team. He said they were meant to be Knight Riders because they're going to be in black and they'll have golden helmets and golden pads. So he's very clear about this metallic golden look. And he thought that, he would be different. And he, in a way, he's very different.
That's a grammatical error because it should be Knight who's a rider, as again, Knight Riders. It's a little confusing because you're looking at Camelot and those kind of knights. I got another impression altogether. It was more like Knight Riders, a loose face for someone who works in the night and, works hard during the night and things like that, I would think.
But, I think he was somewhere influenced by the, the leather and or the Harley Davidson kind of gang.
Yeah, he had that warrior.
Basically, he wanted to kind of put across a very, a very tough kind of appearance for his team as people who could be,
both Mumbai Indians and Kolkata Knight Riders blew my mind in 2007 or 8 or whenever it was. But it stuck ultimately.
If you look at it, these are the only two names which were different because the others had bull. There were two lions and
Chargers.
And there were Chargers. So they basically all had kind of imageries of, these are all, animals and things. Much like they all borrowed from the US League in a way, where there are all these tigers and bulls and animals and lions. And Kings, of course. And Kings, they had a lion, they still do. I think these two names are very different.
These are from left field, no question of that. Let's get that boy in, our producer. I don't know why he didn't. Kaushik, you scared him.
He's here.
He'll call now. Silvery, don't call Kaushik sir. Huh? He doesn't like that. Would you like anything else, like Lord or Milord, Boss G?
Just Roy? Maybe Roy? Yeah.
Just Roy. I think he'll have a hard time doing that. Could you call Kaushik Roy?
Roy?
This is the head honcho of Reliance, one of the top guns, and he's asking you to call him Roy.
I call him Mr. Phoenix. Mr. Phoenix.
Mr. Phoenix. Well played.
Oh,
well played.
Wow. That's nice.
Played off the front foot, straight through covers for 4. Excellent shot. Silvery, would you like to ask any questions? Please go ahead.
Sir, so you are a part of this international advertisers. Wait, I'll get the exact thing right. Advertising Association's Hall of Fame. Yeah.
Right.
How did that come about? So that's like a very cool.
Well, actually, he's been very modest, and we haven't had time to talk about his entire.
Yeah, I know.
It's like he's got 3 or 4 careers. We can only focus on the writing for now. But go ahead.
Yeah. So I have to say this: that while I've worked very hard and tried to sort of make a living out of advertising and the branding jobs that I've held, I've also been spending a lot of time, which is to do with the industry. Now, very few people actually do that because they feel that, it takes your focus away and all that. But I got into it in terms of the advertising club in Mumbai, which is a very big thing. And my first break into that was that there's an award called the Abbey. And this Abbey Award was suddenly under severe attack. And it was like meant to be stopped because there were other people who were coming with their advertising awards. And I was thrown in to take care of the Abbey Awards to make it popular. And the best way that I could do it was to have a snazzy show where I had people coming and doing all kinds of things. But the challenge was that they would all have to do it in a manner that it was something to do with advertising. And that was my contribution to advertising, where I actually made the Abbey. And I said that, it had reached a point that it was not meant to be considered as a serious award anymore. Suddenly, even today, all other awards have fallen by the wayside, but it's the Abbey which continues to be the biggest brand, so to speak, in Indian sphere, which is...
Silvery,
Yeah,
I'll just
go
take
ahead.
up from what Kaushik is saying. Sorry to interrupt, which is when the Abbey started, I was in advertising, my 1 year in advertising.
Okay.
And some of the best drinking nights I've ever had at the Abbey Awards. Let me tell you. Kaushik is not
Yes,
telling the
yes.
truth. This is the advertising in the 90s at their very best, where everybody drank themselves silly and there was the best
Right.
looking women you could ever see in your life, and
True.
some of the finest talent in both men and women, and all coming together. So you were really, it was a bit like Greenwich Village sort of feel. You had a lovely, lovely little area of creativity and fun.
Yes, true.
I'm not trying to say our generation is better than the next one, blah, blah, blah. But what Kaushik doesn't tell you is the fun. What fun it was.
Yeah,
It's
it was
great
fun. It was great fun. But to come to the IA part, basically, I've consistently worked with the industry bodies. So eventually, when it came to the point where the IAA, it decides for a leadership award, they induct somebody into the Hall of Fame. I guess for all these things that I've done for the industry and not just work for an agency or a client or whatever else, I think this is the recognition to say that I've contributed in terms of what this industry is all about.
Although he's a majority, not a minority in advertising, because if you grew up like we did in advertising, again, I'm talking about 20, 30 years ago, filled with Bengalis running it in terms of top of the chain, creative, marketing, new ideas, old ideas, filmmakers, the works. Still don't know if that holds good, but definitely my generation. Fair to say, Kaushik?
Yeah, it was, but I think there's a healthy mix now.
It's a more secular world now, but I think we're very much still there. Lots of big names. Shujit Sarkar comes to mind immediately. So there's plenty of people out there still. And Kaushik Roy is running strong. Roy Phoenix with guns in the holster running around Parel shooting people. Both majorities and minorities.
If you say so, but I think I'm the old fuddy-duddy bong, and there are these young and hot guys who are still working very well. Shumanto Chattopadhyay is a big name, and he does something called.
But he's not young.
He's kind of. I mean, for me, he's young. I mean, there
this
are
is
younger.
Theory of relativity. Now, I don't know what to say because he's sort of my age.
Well, you're young, of course you are.
Thank you. I'll go with that. Look at this guy. He could be my son. Silvery. I don't mean that. Do not get scared.
Okay.
Do you wonder why China does the things that it does? Or want to know how we could improve online privacy? Or perhaps you're thinking about how we can kickstart India's economy? If you'd like to search for the answers to such questions, check out All Things Policy, a daily public policy podcast that covers everything from employment figures to aircraft carriers. Tune in from Monday to Friday for new episodes and fresh takes.
Follow me at Instagram and Twitter on Board Brocha. I'm so bored, I need your help. I need your love. I need your touch. Okay, just follow me. AMAs?
AMAs, yes. The first question comes in from Shahid Afsar. He asks, already intrigued with this book. Where can I order it? You can order it on Amazon, Shahid. He says, secondly, are A and Z enemies in your book since A takes the first position and Z being the last?
Great point.
Very, very good point. Yes, there is a tussle. Though, of course, the interesting thing is that the antagonist in my story drives the story, and that is Y. So it is Y who instigates the others to make things happen. Though Z is never interested in taking A's position. But of course, if you're told that, the Phoenician way, which is the way the alphabets, they started, you should be reading right to left. So this is a, way of saying that you could have been the first. We could have read from right to left, but it became left to right because of the
Bucks won't like what you're saying. The Bucks won't like what you're saying. No right to left in this country, apparently.
No. So therefore, yes, they are jockeying, or at least Z is jockeying for that position, but not because Z would like to do it. Z is actually a wonderful human being with a tremendous story, which is a backstory. We have to read it to find out who Z was hanging out with, who was Z's partner, so to speak. It's a complete surprise.
I could answer that. It's Sony at the moment. They've been the buyout as far as I know.
True. Yes, of course. That's another
Sorry, to bring down the intellectual ratio of this lovely show. But A to A and Z, already you see people are intrigued. I must say you've started, it'll probably be like one of those great, what is that, Harry Potter series, something like that, where you start understanding the language in the language when the younger people Silvery, for example, they can actually quote chapter and verse about the sports involved, the language, the words.
Yeah.
They just create a whole lexicon. Looks like you're going to do that with this book.
But I have to immediately slip in this one about the Z thing, which is we generally call it Z in this country. So somebody saw the blurb which says a satire on majoritarianism. He just read it and say, "Oh, you've used the letters of the alphabet. Very good. I hope you reserve Z for your security." So I said, "Oh, okay.
Nice.
Wow.
That was very nice."
Very smart. Yeah.
I wonder what that connection is, Z, because it's the last letter. What is the connection there with Z
I
and
don't
security?
know why they call the Z security. I mean,
It's a
that means
hierarchy,
that-
obviously. A security would be what? Like a flower?
Yeah, something
you
like
wave
that.
at someone. And then
maybe
you
a
go all the way
fan.
down
You
to-
you
Yeah,
wave a
something-
fan
yeah,
and
yeah.
say,
Exactly. Yeah.
So keep
Then
the
you go
flies
up.
away.
And Z, you got these guys
Yeah.
who just keep waving you away with their hands while the great man is in the car, which I've not understood exactly why. But one day someone will write a book about that. Let's go to the next. Sorry.
Sure. Tarun Kaushik asked this question. He says, "We have seen conflicts in religion, race."
Tarun Kaushik Roy.
Yeah, Tarun
Yes.
Kaushik, meet Kaushik Roy. He says, "We have seen conflicts in religion, race, languages, genders, or anything as weird as profession. There's always been an imbalance in the numbers. How to separate majoritarianism from dominance?" There's no easy answer, I'm sure.
There's no easy answer.
That's true. So
Yeah.
is there never a balance? So how do you create? So basically, how do you create democratic principles? All very good in theory, but never really there.
Well, in a way, what I have tried to say in my book, and that's the reason why some people are saying, why did you have to choose letters to say this story? I've chosen letters because I believe that at the end of the day, my example or the metaphor is one where even if you take one letter out, your vocabulary could be challenged because you can't be, having all the words that you are used to or you operate with. If even one letter is gone. So my point over here is that every little letter, and I think that's a very interesting point also to say that look at the hierarchy of the letters. There is a QWERTY system that we are all used to, which is it starts with Q. And it was always there. I don't know why it's called QWERTY, but it starts with Q. Now, the interesting thing is the weakest letter is Q because Q has the least amount of words. And it also has a very interesting thing, which I believe is a great example, which is Q doesn't have a voice unless it has U with it. So that's the only letter that, actually depends on somebody else. So I believe that's a great example. So to recognize this whole system of balance, imbalance, we need to understand the role of Q, who actually is not able to sort of say anything. Yet Q manages to speak because of U. So I think that's one great example of how we can find a way to sort of work together, work with each other, and make each other, sound good.
But doesn't X have less letter words as well? Letter X?
Yeah, X has a little more than. If you look at the word share, which is in the lexicon, Q has the least. X has somewhere very close to. I mean. Interestingly, X
but it doesn't depend on any second letter.
Yeah, X is a standalone letter.
Plus, we
very interesting. This
is also like royalty and stuff like Xerxes. Like very high-end names or weighted like things have like X. I think.
But then Q is for queen.
See, he had to choose a Parsi name.
Yeah, really, I'm quite impressed.
I don't know.
There's Xerxes, there's Artaxerxes, there's Xerxes the second, Xerxes the third. So decide which one you want. Yeah. Very interesting. See, I told you minorities still holding. Phoenicians also of Persian descent in a sense, aren't they? Share the genetic link. So, how did you get this interest in Phoenician language?
Yeah, so it's all across the Mediterranean. There were little what is called city-states who actually formed what is the Phoenician kind of thing. And yes, they're the people who travel the most, so they needed a language to
do business. They were naval power, no? More than anything else?
Yes, a naval power, yes. Yeah. They were basically sailors. Yes, that's right.
There you go. Once a pirate, always a pirate, Silvery. Word to the wise. Okay, let's get a few more in.
Another question, which is what about W?
What about W? Yes.
Yeah.
It's a lazy question.
Okay, W is a very interesting character in my story. Basically, my story talks about a tyrant. And I say that a tyrant cannot become a tyrant unless the tyrant has devotees. The devotees have to be very stupid. They have to be people who never question, and they have to be very insecure. I think these are two very important things, which is they have to be insecure and they have to be always kept in a state of believing that, it's going to be a very rosy and wonderful thing in the future. So W is that bird who actually, my character W has wings, like that, and it flies. And it's a very dumb bird. It falls for everything and believes that, one day it can become as powerful as you to take U's place to sit next to Q. So, there is that very big tussle. It says that I'm double U. So as double of you, I should be able to do the job that you can do. So that's W for you. Yes.
Wow. So just a lesson to be learned again. If you want to be a dictator, you need chamchas and chelas. Okay. So
yes.
then, Kaushik, what is a bhakt then exactly?
Well, I don't know what a bhakt is, but I know what a devotee is.
Definitely a little bit of Garincha more than Pele, I would say, in footballing terms.
Sure.
Definitely dodged. Excellent work.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
there you go. It's all in your book. Your point is, otherwise at cocktail parties, you're Kaushik the friendly.
Well, actually, what I would like to say that those who read the book, they need to decide who is meant to be this land. Because what I've done is I've put out all the symptoms that people have to watch out for. And if they think the symptom is a match with my country, your country, that country, that's for you to decide.
Or even on a more personal level, you're talking about corporates or in your building society or whatever. It's the same thing. Human nature,
yeah,
it's just on a
absolutely.
micro level or macro level, it's the same thing. It's the absurdity of human nature. I hate human beings. I don't know why we even talk about them. This show should only be about reptiles, my now chosen species.
Sure. Or Animal Farm, only pigs.
But Animal Farm, it's just a little bit like that in a sense. Yeah, there's a warning there somewhere.
True.
Yeah.
All right. So a couple more questions. This next one comes in from Prithvi. He says, do you actually sit in the Reliance corporate office? How do you juggle between your corporate and author lives?
This is the question I should have asked if I was a good anchor, but being a moron, I forgot to. This is a very important question. A lot of people how do people like you manage to juggle so many hats? It's a cliche, but it's ridiculous. I don't know how you do it because there's so much responsibility. It's not like you've just got a small job where you can just clock in and F off at 5 o'clock.
So it's a very simple answer. One is that you've got to be mad enough or, you've to believe in what you want to do. That is the first thing. Second is that once you do that, you'll find the time. Because you have to remember that there is a time that you're meant to be sleeping. And if
that's
you
at work.
decide... well, actually, it's work because, the brain needs to sleep. But I believe that if you decide to do something, you have to stay awake and do that while others are sleeping. It's a tough job. It's a lonely job, but you have to do it.
Many of the famous names around the world before and now have actually held jobs and spent their whole time on their typewriters, writers especially, knocking off book after book or, memo after memo or whatever, which made them famous. The job was forgotten, obviously. They were not known for that. So I'm thinking you're not alone, but you are a minority because I think most people either can do one thing and that's about it. Then they need their drink and put their feet up or play golf or what have you. But just looking at you, the funny thing is you're not going to slow down, are you? What's next?
No. So what's next? I still have a desire to do some more movies. Now I think I have the time. And the best thing is that the world has opened up in terms of doing movies, in terms of the way you can shoot, the way you can edit. Everything can happen as a home production. And with the digital platforms, you have such a wide distribution system. I think I'm going to try some more of that. And of course, there are a few more books that have to be finished because I'm being kicked by my wife saying that, why haven't you done that? That should have come first and all that. So, I have
satire?
Well, I think one that I have to write immediately after this has got to be a nonfiction, which is about my life and my younger son who's autistic. And I believe that I have actually become what I am because of him, in the sense that he has forced me to change and do things because of what he is. And I think there's a big lesson because there are lots of people who come to me to ask, how do you parent such a child? And, it's also important that I have a son who's older than him. And he has been the person who's actually been able to balance the whole relationship, because it's a very tough relationship in the sense that if you, I'm sorry, I've become very serious in a show where we're supposed to be laughing, but if you understand what I'm saying is that many relationships and especially marriages break when you have a child who's got a problem. And to stay together, to be glued together, is something where I think I've gained all this as a first-hand experience, and that is the book that I need to write, because I think it's meant to be read by a lot of people who want to sort of learn how to deal with, because when they come to me as young parents, they're shell-shocked. I can see in their faces that they're lost and they don't know what exactly they should do. So I want to share that in the next book.
But just a quick word, now that you mentioned him, he's hugely talented. We share a common friend called Payal, and he's I don't know too much about autism, but hugely talented in the artistic sense.
Yes, he's a very good artist. He's like temperamental, as all artists are meant to be.
Bengali to boot.
He won't paint. He won't do anything. Suddenly, he'll wake me up in the when I'm fallen asleep, and he says, "Look, I've done this." And the only thing that he does, which is something that I cannot stop him, is that now he's got in the habit of shooting a picture, which is he shoots it terribly, in the sense that a horizontal picture, he shoots it vertically and puts it up on Instagram. So I have to shout at him and tell him, "What have you done? I mean, people can't make out what this picture is. It's so lovely. Just turn it around and do it this way." And then he says, "Okay, you do it for me." So that's what we do, father and son.
You're coming in the way of his art. I don't like people telling an artist what to do. There's always
I know.
point.
Maybe there's a message that it should be seen upside down. That's his message.
Oh, there you go.
True.
But it just adds to your, when you look back at your profile, that you dealt with this and in a very positive way. Again, we don't have time to get into everything. And you've written a book on top of all the different hats that you wear, and there are more books to follow. But let's try and can we get 2 or 3 questions in, or are you in a hurry?
Sure.
Yeah.
This next one comes in from Harvesh Kasar. He says, a question from Mr. Roy. What name would you suggest for the new IPL teams from Ahmedabad and Lucknow?
Okay.
The vegetarian 11 for the Lucknow team?
What about Dhokla Wala?
For Ahmedabad. Okay, yeah. Sorry.
Okay. And,
let me pronounce it properly. Ahmedabad.
Ahmedabad, yes.
Dhokla Wala. Okay, this is a guy gave them Mumbai Indians and is very up with the Kolkata Knight Riders nomenclature.
Or Dhokla Kings. Why don't it's actually going to be Dhokla Kings, because food is very important. Look,
absolutely.
If I had Shah Rukh Khan will have a heart attack, but I may have called it Rasgulla. Just imagine the team called Rasgulla Kings or Rasgulla
or Night Rasgullas. Kolkata Night Rasgullas.
Yeah.
Lucknow can be Kebab Kings.
It's got a double meaning there, which is scaring me a little bit. I'm thinking, maybe we'll be a little careful with that. Yeah. But what happened to Mumbai?
No, Lucknow should be Luck always. What about Luck always? Why Luck now? I mean, Luck now and ever, or something like that. They're always lucky.
They'll have to wait for the next election before they decide that. Yeah.
Lucknow lucky.
Yeah.
Lucky Lucknow.
Lucky Lucknow. Something like that, yeah.
What about Mayawati's Mighty? I guess that'll be shot down in a second.
The handbag won't be allowed.
The handbag. See, they were hurting my feelings. I love that.
Oh, okay.
These are the things that make them endearing to me. I see that Sebastian Vettel taking the prize from her, and she's got a handbag and not changed anything about her, but she's glamorized a little bit for the photo ops that happen. Well, this is the India that I like. I was there. True. We were there. We were watching it live in Noida many years ago when she was boss. Because I don't know if that day will ever come back. Kaushik Roy. Next one.
We'll see.
All right. This last one comes in from Prithvi. He says, first, this was Cyrus. Shreyas Iyer has scored a debut century.
So, here's the big question. Rahane or Pujara? Kaushik, what's your take now? You do the maths. Rohit Sharma and Virat come back. They have to, one opener concedes and one middle order has to concede. You can't drop Shreyas now.
Right.
So, the fact of the matter, the writing on the wall for Rahane, who's been one of our wonderful batsmen, but what can you do? We have too much talent right now.
True.
He gets 100, he stays. So I would think the captain would have to make way. We probably won't have to bat again because now the back's to the wall for New Zealand, where we stand in the game. Kaushik, please come in.
Well, I think at times I feel, I remember this thing about one of the West Indians commenting, say that, in West Indies, though of course their team is in bad shape now, but he said that in West Indies, the beauty is that we get to know a talent immediately because somebody says, that next door neighbor
son.
he's a great talent. the problem with you is that you have so much of talent that you don't know who to pick. I think that is the kind of situation that we're in. So let's see.
Can I tell you, Shreyas has not played red ball cricket since middle of 2019. He's not hit a red ball. All right, actually, he had injuries in between, etc., etc. He walked straight in. Of course, these are flat wickets, but there was a difficult position, 4 down for 150 odd and 140 odd, and he went on to make 100. So that just tells you, at least in Indian conditions, you don't need to worry about the ball color. It doesn't seem to make that much of a difference.
No, I think it's talent. I think you have to recognize the fact that if you're talented, you will hit any ball, red, white, or pink. So I think that's the real thing.
I thought it was a very second half of his 100. He was very cocky and in his body language, Tambram boy raised in Mumbai with a, he looked like he was right on top of it. But good, I suppose from the point of view of Indian cricket, it's great. But I feel a little sad because Rahane and Pujara not been given their due. The conditions abroad, we won those series, and all these two have battled, really battled, not necessarily getting hundreds. C'est la vie, as the Indians say in Pondicherry. Silvery?
Yep.
How are we doing?
Okay, this is a suggestion from Arpit Bansal. He says, can we have Mr. Phoenix be a part of Monday Dictionary Challenge? Which would be very interesting.
Okay, we'll have to call him back if he has the time. But so we have this segment we do on Monday where I put up words from the dictionary, and so far Silvery's got none, and Amit has struggled to get like 1.5 in a whole year of doing this. So since you seem to be a man of letters, they're thinking that you'll be the right guy to be on the. Can we tune you in for 5 minutes just for that bit?
Sure. I'll give it a go, but I'm sure I'm going to flunk. But
you know the Phoenician language. What are you talking about? What is this? English is nothing for you. You probably learned it on the weekend. Come on. So we'll hold you to that, Kaushik.
Okay.
But before we end, I want to just say a couple of things. One is we share a common friend called Payal, who used to work with us at the week that wasn't and is very close to you. I just want to thank her for giving us Kaushik Roy and the time that we've had with him.
She's wonderful. She's such a great friend, really.
Superb. It just came, straight up. She's a straight up person. My favorite people are always straight up people. Sometimes that doesn't work in politics, but yeah. So she just came up and said, Roy Phoenix, let's push the envelope. Want to just end on this quote though. I thought it was fantastic. The one by Shekhar Kapoor. Let me find it. This is what Shekhar Kapoor has said about the book. He read it, and this is what he wrote. Alphabetica is an allegorical tale about peaceful coexistence. It has a universal appeal for the family and the world at large. And the English alphabet as a metaphor for inclusiveness is a charming idea. I guess he lives in England now, so it's a very British style of writing. The English alphabet as a metaphor for inclusiveness is a charming idea. I mean, just this great turn of phrase for me as well, which I think Kaushik is underlying under all the other things. I suppose it's a call for, positive unity and hope. This waste of time points that, of course, go above the head of all human beings. Thank you, Kaushik. Anything else you want to say?
No, I think it's been wonderful. And I hope I've been able to say a few things about my book and my life, which is going to be useful because, any conversation should lead behind something.
Read that. Shahid just bought the book on Kindle, hardcover and paperback, also available on Amazon. Wow.
Tarun bought the book. He's telling Shahid, hey, I just bought the book. That's why.
Oh, sorry, Tarun bought the book. Correct.
Tarun, okay. Tarun Kaushik. Yeah, wonderful.
There you go. He's your Bhakt. He's a Kaushik, you see, immediately. He's a Bhakt, proper.
Yeah. Thank you, Tarun.
And I love the t-shirt. Reminds me again of the Abbeys in the 90s.
Right.
Is it polka dots? This is coming from my Kolkata. I'm wearing Kolkata for Kolkata. There you go.
Yeah.
Kolkata Knight Riders. But Silvery, on the other hand, is dressed like a barber.
No. It is all the Kolkata Knight Riders. You just don't see it. It's very, very small.
Yeah. No, this is the Vada Pav Warriors, the new name for Mumbai Indians.
Yeah, that's it.
We've been told to link it to food. All right. Yeah. Bye, Kaushik. Can you show us the book as we
okay.
It's called Alphabetica. There you go.
That's it. And this is the Planet typewriter. And what you see are the 5 vowels flying off because there's been a kind of explosion. And so the vowels are out. And what is written over here is when the consonant majority attacks the vowel minority, the world of words falls silent. So that's what it is.
There you go. Now we have to fall silent as well. Kaushik, thank you so much. All the best. And hope to have you back soon.
Yes, it'll be a pleasure. And have a great day. Bye.
Thank you. My day is over, but thank you anyway. Bye, guys.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, catch us on any of the podcasting apps, please. We beg you. We need you. Send us your questions on Twitter on Cyrus Says In. Or you can email us, even if you're not female, on whatcyrussays@gmail.com.
Season 3 of Echoes of India, your favorite history podcast, is back on the IVM Podcast Network. I'm your host, Anirudh Kanasetti. Join me on a journey through the wonders of early India as we explore the centuries between Buddha and Ashoka with critical research, empathy, and great storytelling. Along the way, you'll hear from all the vibrant peoples who shaped our world, from monks and farmers to warriors and emperors. New episodes are out every Monday.
If you're a cricket fan, check out Edges and Sledges, India's favorite cricket podcast.
The podcast focuses on Indian cricket, the IPL, and has a ton of banter both on and off the field.
We talk about the week's biggest cricket stories with current and ex-international cricketers, coaches, or sometimes just between us.
And it's hosted by me, DJ.
Me, Varun.
And me, Ashwin.
New episodes release every week.
You can catch us on the IVM Podcast's website, app,
or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Check out the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast.